win in 23 minutes. You know, that is still an option if you pick around that strategy and really try and execute it. And that's the direction I'd prefer to see the Scarabs go.
Well, picks and bans for game number 1. The Oni Warriors are your first pick team. And immediately, it seems they've been doing their homework. They recognize exactly what you had highlighted. Scream is a threat. And they go for one of the gods that Scream has been playing quite a bit these last few sets. The Tsukuyomi banned out by them, alongside the Cthulhu for the Warriors. Solar Scarabs get rid of the Odin. And it feels like, at least Cthulhu Odin, as of right now and this week, very standard. The Tsukuyomi is definitely a shot.
Yeah, that's just only Scream that's playing that at that level that's worthy of a ban. So, and I think the Warriors are right to do so. You're in first pick position. You can get yourself a priority god this way, and you take a really good god out of Scream's hands. I like that option. Pretty telling that they banned Cthulhu in first pick, as you know, anytime a team is banning away a traditional first pick when they're in that position, now with Geb, you know, these are gods that the Scarabs were probably likely to take away from you if given the opportunity. So the Warriors coming in with a pretty set strategy that doesn't involve 2 top guardians in their roles is something that I think the Scarabs should make note of as the set goes on.
Yeah, knowing that Cthulhu's gone, Geb's gone. And, you know, Cthulhu, I could hear Nika saying how much he doesn't want to play another guardian, right? Like, that's an argument I understand to an extent. Neil likes Geb, from what I could tell. So maybe showcasing what they want. Terra has been the biggest first pick, and the Scarabs banned out the Morgan and Yamoja. So still available is this Terra, but it's going to be someone who was the #1 pick ban for quite a few weeks there in Phase 3, Artio, locked in first.
She hasn't been as good recently, though. I mean, a sub 50% win rate, 41% over 22 games. Certainly not super inspiring for what Nika is going to have to deal with here on this RDO, but still a good pick for sure. Not a bad one for the Warriors, but certainly teams have gotten better at counteracting it. And I like the Sylvanas up against it. You know, it doesn't have CC immunity, root, pull, ult. That RDO is going to end up falling pretty quickly. And an early Ola run pick here for the Scarabs. So now the question becomes, who is playing this? Is it in the mid lane for Baronic, or is it in the duo lane? I think we've only seen it in duo.
Yeah, so far.
So far, but if he's playable, he's probably playable enough in the mid lane.
That's the cool thing about Sanctified Fields, right? It's just kind of good wherever you drop it.
Oh, yeah.
And usually, actually in mid, it might be even better because there's usually more people over there
True.
that you can make suffer with that time dilation. The Sylvanas alongside it, this is something that the Scarabs locked in a lot initially. They were actually, I think the first team we saw lock it in, maybe alongside them, or the Kings, who were really favoring it. And it's been something that in the last couple of sets was banned against inbound as well. It's a lot of setup, and if it is the duo lane here, this is a really, you know, maybe not immediately, but level 4, 5, 6 starts to have a lot of kill potential.
Definitely has a lot of kill potential, but so does Uller at all stages of the game.
He
So,
just does it.
yeah, you just kind of have it from minute 1. I like the Serket pick as well. This could go to Fred or to Neil. The Warriors are the one team that I think that this is more likely to go jungle than support. I think that Fred has just looked so good on this Serket in general. And they do go Charybdis. Now, if I remember correctly, my memory might be failing. I am a part of that Smite Boomers club that you were talking about earlier.
Do you have to be 30 to hit that, or
Okay.
or do they inaugurate
well,
you?
if I have to be 30, then I'm not in it yet, but I'm
I know
fast approaching.
Are Zap and Barra both 30? Didn't they turn
are.
30 like this year?
Yes, they are both 30. So, but I'm not quite a part of that quite yet. Mifflin is laughing at me, and that makes me very sad. But Baronic loved to play this Charybdis. His team was saying, we think Charybdis sucks. Baronic was like, let me take it, and let me show you how it's done. It should be Olarun mid Charybdis duo. I think that is nearly unequivocal. But it could be Olarun ADC and Charybdis mid if that's the direction the Scarabs want to go.
And you know what? Keep them on their toes, right?
Yep.
Having the swap potential like that makes things all more interesting, not just for us, also for the Warriors. They'll be able to see who it is loading in on it after the swaps go through. But it is going to be, as you had mentioned,
No way,
a Terra
bro.
plus a Kuzenbo ban. There's a Nike, there's a Daji. Just to get the bans out there, we're not going to talk about them because Hades just got locked in. And if it's not fine okay, I don't know what to expect out of it.
Yeah, it's going to Solar Patrol. I mean, RDO, you can cancel her dash. It's pretty easy to cancel that dash. You needed some team fight presence because you have 2 single target gods in Olarun and Charybdis. Hades brings you that. You've got Sanctified Field on top of that ultimate. That feels pretty good. I don't know. I'm trying to talk myself into it.
Wasn't it? We were casting, I think, the last set that he was locked in. Me and you were talking about the nuts amount of protections you get in
Yeah,
Pillar
it's
of
broken.
Agony.
Yeah, it's broken. You get an insane amount of prots. It should be illegal how many prots you get. But the reality is that late game, if you're standing in front of a coerce, buffed Soul and Uller, there aren't enough protections. The number doesn't go high enough
Yeah,
for
shout
it
outs
to matter.
to the end of, what was it, end of phase 2, maybe beginning of phase 3, that Fafnir, Soul, Uller were the combo. Actually, it's Fafnir, Soul, throw me a hunter, I don't care. They were very happy with that. And it seems like they'll be happy. Serket as well, a god that has been treating Cuvo Fred very well. This feels like a really cohesive draft from the Warriors.
I like it a lot. They've got good CC. They've got good teamfight presence, at least in terms of a little bit of AoE for this Soul. Overall, their objective pressure is really good. Their objective secure is okay because of the Soul ultimate. I love what the Oni Warriors have. They've got good enough mobility to stay away from this Olarun and from this Charybdis. They don't have that traditional Olarun killer. You know, they don't have the Cthulhu or the Vamana or Kamazots, you know, these gods that Olarun just doesn't have answers to, but they might be able to just ignore him and kill everyone else around him instead.
It's definitely going to be a tall order for them. Depends on where Olarun goes. If it's mid, that's a very immediate problem they're going to have to face. If it's over there in the duo lane for Stewart, that might take a little bit longer. And this is the second time that we're getting to see, or I guess third time we're going to see a Gilgamesh today, which I will admit has caught me off guard of all the gods I had in my list that I expected.
The gift that keeps on giving is the meta shifts we're seeing early on here in the group stages. Soul has been very popular, so has Charybdis, but I don't know about Charybdis mid.
Dave, I've done a lot of homework to prep for the group stages. I read through 8.10, I was watching some streams, I really wanted to figure out exactly what we could expect to see coming into this weekend, and Charybdis mid didn't make the list.
It didn't?
Olarun ADC, I wasn't ready for that one either. SOT busting out of Hades, this is all new to me. This is news. I think the Solar Scarabs, they've come with something that can work. Their team fight is pretty scary. Maybe one of the worst parts of Charybdis' kit is her inability to consistently land the ultimate. But with all this CC lockdown between Sanctified Fields or Pillars of Agony, even the ultimate from inbound, could make it a little bit easier for Baronic to find these impactful ultimates, especially going towards some early scaling. Maybe we see a Transcendence pickup. We talked about it yesterday. Charybdis' ultimate hits hard. Might as well just be a Scylla ult as far as damage is concerned. So I think it could work out in mid. I'm excited to see how this one goes.
Got a couple of wins yesterday for Cyclone Spin and the Tartarus Titans. Charybdis did.
If we're discussing the Solar Scarabs passive of never winning a game 1, we could get a good look at the game 2 based off of game 1. But who's to say that the Solar Scarabs passive isn't actually just post game 3, it's impossible to beat them?
No, and you know, we joke about it a little bit, and SOT not joking here as Cuvo Fred
he's in trouble.
Jumps on the solo lane, ultimate in from SOT, but that's just drawing damage right to his doorstep, nearly turns it around on a Cuvo, but not enough, and Cuvo Fred will walk away with first blood. Scream, the first blood, the kill participation king for the Solar Scarabs, makes his way to right, and will not find the return kill on Anika.
Are very important for dictating the pace of the early macro game. So the Solar Scarabs, they've done a good job as of now, thanks to rotations from Scream. But once Dardes gets a couple more items, could struggle.
Is it happening again to SOT? He does have beads, which now get used. Dash away there as well. Taunt through. Keeps things interesting, but SOT is pulled Q right back into range. And it's the outplay in the solo lane, and SOT says no thank you to the 2v1 gank and immediately flips it around, and it is going to get worse for the Oni Warriors. Neilma joins the fray a little bit late, stun out from Veronica in the mid lane. Transformation will slow things down, but slow no further as SOT adds another.
Man, SOT, great play. That's what we were talking about. Me and Aggro, 2-second fear just can't be bad. Cuvo Fred stuck inside of that tier 1 tower, dies to what I believe was an archer shot, and then from there the Solar Scarabs, great rotation to turn around that fight. I am not certain that Inbound was intending to hit Neilma with that pull. I think it could have been going for Nika, but unfortunately it was Neilma, or unfortunately for Neilma, it was him. Nets the Solar Scarabs their third kill of the game.
Now the Oni Warriors fighting from a deficit, and suddenly the right side of the map doesn't feel so safe anymore for the Oni Warriors. Cuvo Fred was here and he was simply farming, and the Solar Scarabs will dispel him from his own jungle. And let's take a look back at exactly what happens over here. wondering.
Oh, he wanted Neil.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
sick.
That was a camera turn. Looking towards Neil, grabs the pole. And then that's that stun, right? Such a long-range stun from Baronic on that Charybdis. Forces the transformation out and ends up flipping that right back around. Whoever's team solo is over here. Wants to start up the Fury, but doesn't look like that's the case. And both teams happy with turning their eyes towards mid. This would be a 3v2. Neilmon no good on the hammer.
A lot of damage.
Plenty of damage down from Dardes, though. And down underground goes Baronic, and out the other side, he'll end up half HP.
Baronic has crit, death toll, and an Aussie, so just needs to clear out like one camp, and he's going to be able to heal up, but that opportunity might not arise. The Oni Warriors pull gold quick.
Dardes doesn't have his ultimate here, so the secure maybe
What?
working. Yeah, thought so. Stewart looks like he's the one who takes this away. The Solar Scarabs get it nonetheless. And it is Stewart with focused light, sends the damage in. The Oni Warriors do it all, except for the last bit. And the Scarabs make a big play, come up with the Fury steal.
Dave, you know I got to say it, man. Focus light, similar to Fafnir Hammer, stops on first enemy god hit. All you have to do is put your back to this Oleron, and there's no steal potential. Now the Solar Scarabs, they're starting to get some momentum behind them, and they want the Pyro.
In a game that is slower, moments like this can be ever so important, just right through the middle. And Pyromancer in the meantime gets taken down by the Solar Scarabs as well.
His team is stronger, and the enemy team is a little bit weaker as far as attack speed is concerned. So I like this difference from the Solar Scarabs, but we haven't seen the new pieces put together just yet. We haven't seen a 5-on-5 engagement. Baronic on this Charybdis has not gotten involved as of yet. Not a whole lot of damage output. Take a peek at the damage from the Hunters, by the way. Both Stewart and Vote sitting below 600.
Neilmon drop kicked against the wall by Scream. It's a fear out from Cubo Fred. We'll keep the front lines disengaged here. And it looks like 22 minutes in, the first 5v5 of the game could just be right around the corner. Scream sends another drop kick the Warriors' way. This time it's Nika who catches it, sends himself into the wall. SOT in and out of the mist. Will not look for anything any further. Cubo Fred and Dardes group up, knock down a tier 1 tower in mid, so a small golden fusion in the mid lane for the Oni Warriors. SOT still around the backside. Solar Scarab starting up the Fire Giant here. Shogun's Kusari. That'll help out in shredding this objective. Baronic at a good point in this game to shred the objective as well. Drop kick on about, double stun on the other end. And that's Neilmon Vote peeling for their
5%.
back. Both actives use Solar Scarabs. Take down the FG in the meantime. And the Warriors are split up all over the map right now. It's Fire Giant, and then a regrouping from the Solar Scarabs here on the right of the jungle. Looks like the Warriors will survive, but there's no real chance in that fight.
There isn't, but maybe a chance for SOT to find somebody in mid. No, the duo lane of the Oni Warriors will slip away, but the Solar Scarabs take the largest objective. Fire Giant on 5, and all the momentum on their side. It's SOT going deep. Looks like a tier 2 siege here.
Will the Oni Warriors look to defend? Won't have anything to defend for the time being. Gold Fury's still a minute or two away from going down. I think you're very, very happy with how clean that FG push ended up being.
It is, but this is not the largest lead we've seen, and with 27 minutes inexperience means less. Cubo Fred's HP bar means something, though. Every bit of poke that the Solar Scarabs are able to find, or maybe a kill as well.
I was wondering if Scream was going to blink in onto that one. Uses the beads as well. Drop kick beads out by Cubo Fred. Scream jumps up and over Vote. And Vote was saving his jungler's life.
Close.
Nearly pulled back in. Lots of ultimates getting expended here. No stun.
They need it.
We want this. Warriors drop kicked into Nika, who makes his way out of base, and his Hunter is splattered across his face. The Oni Warriors now kiting back into their own base. We might not need an FG if this fight goes our way. Vote gone for 45 seconds. The Solar Scarabs find a pick.
If Nika isn't there, Vote lives.
Have you seen The Boys, the TV show?
Yes.
That's like, oh, I don't want to spoil it. It's literally episode 1. He's chilling there and the A train like runs.
Okay, all right. I know if you've seen The Boys, you know what he's talking about. That's crazy, though. All Nika needed to do was not be there, but now the Scarabs have such an advantage on the Fire.
Fire Giant is real low here, and it's the same thing we saw last time. It's a soft reset as Scream still in the pit. Stewart turns his damage back towards the FG. Sanctified Field
That's
out,
it.
And down goes the Fire. And yet again, it's this big like rainbow of positioning from the Oni Warriors. And no push in. I mean, you're in a 4v5 deficit, but you don't give a real look to yourselves at an opportunity of stealing that away. This is great.
He's playing a Sanctified Field right now. They have to wait for that cooldown to go down if they want to win an engagement.
Big old rectangle that you can't fight in. That is geometry, by the way, that Stewart can use to win this game for the Solar Scarabs.
I guess.
3 versus 2. on the split. SOT and Scream in the mid lane. It's going to be real hard to kill these two. Mirrored by Cubo, Fred, and Nika. Needless to say, the initial trades going the way of the Solar Scarabs duo here in mid. Little sustain in there as well from SOT. Baronic receives some poke from Vote, and that's where a threat could be if Vote is able to hit that critical axe. Look, you got Transcendence, Brawlers, Jotuns, Heartseeker, Titan's Bane. This is a full build Uller. It's just got to hit that rotation. Hasn't happened yet this game. In goes Neomar, walks forward. Phoenix receiving a little bit of damage here on left as Neil kind of playing on that line. Solar Scarabs kept at bay for one more wave.
Man, it's just so high stakes what's happening on the left side of the map. If Vote lands an axe onto a hyper carry, they're dead. If Inbound lands a pull, that starts the fight off properly. These guys are trading haymakers on the Phoenix line.
Vote does have both of his actives, so does Dardez. So if that pull from Inbound is out, or if the drop kick is out from Scream, Vote will walk on back from the Winds of Shamash.
There's the pull!
Cubo Fred, massive two-man knockup from Inbound to start off this fight. And SOT answers in kind. Left side Phoenix gone.
Dardez
scattering into the wind. Big drop kick from Scream as SOT starts off the killing. It's the first 5v5 we've seen in game number 1, and it is 30 minutes in, and it is a 5v5 that the Solar Scarabs will win. Nika and Vote are still alive. There's lots of damage still to be done by this Uller, and the Solar Scarabs playing patiently.
They are. They've got so much time to work with. Fire Giant sustain, Ola Run sustain, and Sylvanas should get those HP bars back in a fighting condition. But a couple of players on the Oni Warriors, and two very important ones, still alive. But SOT goes in alone, dropped low.
That is a lot of damage from Vote. 20 seconds, give or take, on the death timers from the Oni Warriors. Vote has got to go big, and Nika's got to take a lot of the damage himself. Walking into the Titan are the Solar Scarabs. That's a big ultimate from SOT. Goodbye, Vote. Goodbye chances for the Oni Warriors to come back in game number 1, and the Scarabs blow them out.
That is so impressive. I wonder how long the Scarabs have been working on this style of play.
Off to a lead, and from that point forward, it feels like things go their way. It's not a high kill count game for a hefty majority of it, but you can look at the gold count as of right now, which I will say credited by a steal early on, thanks to Stewart. It just feels like this was the turnaround kill and turnaround play that slowed things down for the Warriors.
Yeah, Fred all-in commits and just gets worked by Solar Patrol. And this Hades, I mean, that's what I was saying. This has got to be the big pick, I think. Solar Patrol went huge. He had the most player damage in the entire game, was consistently controlling these team fights when they did happen. And the area control that we saw out of the Scarabs between the Charybdis ultimate and the Olarun ultimate and the Hades ultimate and the Sylvanas ult, I mean, they just had a lot of it. And the Gilgamesh ultimate, of course. They just had a lot of AoE control, and the Warriors never seemed to be able to punch through.
An insane game from them as well, and they were a little nervous about Nika and Vote towards the end. They played it safe and went for the mid Phoenix, but didn't need to be. 2 kills total on the side of the Warriors, whereas even though they didn't pick up the kills in the duo lane, minimum 2 kills for everybody else on the Scarabs. And a whole lot of assists there. Stewart, I think he gets credit for at least 3 kills because he stole an objective. I don't know if that's how they work. I don't know the equality for that, but
it's a lot.
There's an equivalent exchange somewhere in there. And Inbound rocking a great support slash line. It just comes to show that the way they played, specifically their team fight around this, shifting Charybdis over into the mid lane as well for Baronic, who seems to like it. It all worked out, even though it was a little surprising.
Yeah, I mean, not often that your hunter does 4,800 damage and you win, but Stewart just had to control the pace of the fights with that ultimate and let Solar Patrol, Scream, and Baronic do the heavy lifting because they did a ton of damage in this game. Baronic on that Charybdis looked very comfortable, as you just said, and Scream continues to impress, man. Allow Vote to play up in the lane. I mean, I don't know if the Olarun matchup is bad enough that he can't really play aggressively, but he wasn't able to very much in that game.
A lot of, I want to just say slow style there from the Warriors, while the Scarabs picked up everything across the map.
I was going to say that if you're going to change something for the Warriors, how about you don't ban the best gods you can pick when you're first pick? Like, make them ban Geb from you. I just don't understand why they're banning Geb. They have to. It has to be that they don't think it's that good for Neil. That Neil doesn't like it that much, and I just don't understand how that's the case. Because that god is really good.
He has been very good. Cthulhu was another one that they had banned. They opted for the Sylvanas this time. So I'm looking at, as of right now, Morgan, Yamoja, Cthulhu, Tsukiyomi are still all available to be banned. Terra has been a very popular pick. Did not even get looked at until the second ban phase of the last picks and bans. That was banned out by the Scarabs. So maybe a little bit of work here for the Warriors in terms of draft order. But this is where things get a little more convoluted, right? Because you're looking at it, Geb Sylvanas, you had mentioned not banning things that you're going to want to first pick. Terra, in my mind, goes on that list.
Sure.
Cthulhu could still be up here for the Warriors. I mean, there's so many options that are just good gods right now. They're going to go for the Olaron. They take away 2 gods from the Solar Scarabs.
Yeah, I think this is fine. I mean, the Olaron, it's kind of funny that they banned the god that did so little damage, but Stuart's stealing away that objective, and Olaron is just one of those gods that makes you not want to fight around him, and so if you take away that option, it makes it a little bit easier to set it up. So I like this adjustment from the Warriors. Now the Scarabs have to make the choice. Do we ban Cthulhu, or do we try and pick around it? Do we try and prepare to try and take it down? Cthulhu is the exact type of pick that I want Nika on. The ability to hard carry games, hard carry team fights, and just be absolutely dominant in those 5v5s. I think they should lock it in with haste. Although Umoja's open. Okay. It's not Cthulhu, but I can get over it.
Now, so with Umoja locked in, what if the rebuttal is something like Cthulhu Terra? Because that seems
That's
really good for a
it's
lot
good.
of teams.
No, it's real good, actually. Yeah, that would be good for the Solar Scarabs for sure. But, you know, Umoja's such a game-changing style of pick, and Neil is so good on it that I think you're willing to take that trade if that's what happens. They get Terra Charybdis, which is solid, but, like, doesn't scare you that much. I guess that your biggest fear is that Scream takes Gilgamesh next, but I don't think that means you have to take it. I think you just go Cthulhu Uller or Cthulhu whatever vote wants. If it's time, that's fine. I definitely do want to see Cthulhu here, though, for Nika.
We'll see if he locks it in. Man, we're talking about on the screen. And it will be the Cthulhu for him. This is a devastating team fight. Just Umoja Cthulhu, what they're going to be capable of doing. That's a lot of potential for the Warriors. I know we had some notes, I guess, about specifically Cuvo this last time around. Maybe we'll wait for those as we wait to see what his pick is going to be. That's going to be a very important one, I think, for the Warriors. Hades is what they go back to. Look, Sot had a sick game, but this is early in the draft for Hades.
It is early in the draft for Hades, but it's the same style where you can get away with this really greedy Bancroft's rush in lane because you're up against Guardians that can't possibly punish you. There are so few picks that actually punish Hades in lane, period, and none of them are named anything in the Guardian tab. So you just won't find it there. So it makes sense up in this lane matchup. Hades is pretty good against Umoja. You have a way to get out of the River's Rebuke. You can pull her out of the Riptide really easily with that ultimate. Like I've been saying, 2-second fear on a regular ability can't be that bad. It just can't be.
And you know what? We got to see it a few times the last game. It wasn't that bad, as it turns out. It's
No.
very solid. Plus, I still can't get over it, now that I know the math behind it, how many procs you get in Pillar of Agony.
And then you add in Stone of Fall where you get 18% damage mitigation.
Yeah, you just don't
On top of
die.
that, you just don't die.
Now, if you have your ult, you shouldn't be worried about anything in the world.
No, not
Except
really.
good positioning, right? That's all you need. And even then, you could probably get away with it. Just say, I'm not going to die here.
Yep.
Soul is the ban from the Solar Scarabs. And it's going to be responded in kind with a Giannis on the other side. That's a little bit brave. I was going to ask you about this. Charybdis locked in again. Was played by Baronic. Do you think that's something they go back to?
I think it could, but you need more magic damage if you do. I don't think you can afford to have Terra Hades be your only magic damage. Those are frontliners that deal good damage. You know, it's not like they bring nothing in the magical damage department. But I think that it would be too easy for Neil to just rush Sov, Lotus Crown, all of a sudden you don't do any damage. So, I don't know. I think that the Scarabs probably need a magical damage source besides just Terra and Hades.
Can Freya jungle again? Is that ever going to
No.
happen? No?
No.
Okay. You said that,
she
and
can't.
immediately I was like, all right, so what other weird off-meta things could be picked
How
up?
about weird off-meta
Weird
for this?
off-meta is
Yeah,
going
there
to happen no matter what. Kali gets locked in. We don't see her often, but if you think about this, feels like she could be a good pick into Cthulhu,
Very good.
20 minutes after the game starts.
Yeah, very good. You just buy Hasten, you buy Chin Size, and you go, cool, when are you ulting? Because I'll kill you. Like, nothing you can do. I'm knock-up immune in destruction, so as soon as you go to knock me up, I just press 4, can't die, I chop, 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 and all of a sudden you're dead. I like Kali into the Cthulhu. Now, can you afford to have your assassin only hitting a solo laner for the vast majority of the fight? Probably not. What is happening?
This feels. This is something we've seen.
What is
the
this?
Valkyries do? Like they played Kronos mid, and a couple of people down in the SCC, but this is not
What is
what
going
I
on?
was expecting here in game number 2. Look, we're used to. It's a best of 5. We're used to things getting a little weird.
Not in game 2, Gore. It's game 2. We haven't even had a chance for stuff to get weird. They've top 3'd Hades, then they pick Kali, and the enemy team goes, yeah, Kronos me.
Have to react.
Dave, go ahead and take a lap because I'm going to talk about a lot of picks here. I'm going to start off with just the pick order. Cannot believe the Oni Warriors took Yamoja over Terra. I think Terra is the highest value god in the game right now. Full stop. Earthen Fury is that strong in a team fight. But even beyond that, knowing, the Oni Warriors that is, knowing there's a Terra on the other side, they decide to put Cuvo Fred on Hun bots. And here's the thing about Hun bots.
Please tell me.
He's terrible into Terra because Fear No Evil is going to proc the heal of Earthen Fury every single time. There's no way for you to use that ultimate and not have it heal the enemy team. It's not offsetting the damage output. Am I getting heated?
Yeah,
Get a little angry. And you know, I'm going to keep going. Kali dominates Cthulhu. Aggro highlights that perfectly. And the Oni Warriors have been struggling in the 3v3, so it is bonkers to me as well that Kronos is in mid.
Let me put this in a. Let me ask this in a.
Yeah, you had to cut me off. I had 3 more
game.
minutes. I will never F6 again in my life.
How do you think that's a similar impact to you betting like 50 grand on a game of Smite?
I would say that 50 grand means less to me because I value my time so highly.
All right, you heard it here first. Myth never again will forfeit a game, but it looks bad for that as Inbound dashes in. Neomot taken down for first blood, and the Solar Scarabs get it done the old-fashioned way. Lockdown onto Neomot, and they'll grab an extra 500 gold for their back pockets.
Inbound already starting to leverage some of that early power that he's picked up from his helmet. That likely is going to be a Lotus Crown going forward. Has meditation, so the sustain is there. And oh boy, Kronos, a weak early game god, getting bullied by Charybdis. Has to go back to his lane there just to clear out the wave. So maybe we see Dardes pick up the red buff. But purple buff, that's going to the Scarabs. Early lead for the Chaos team.
Pacing for Scream this game, but with a different outcome where it felt like Gilgamesh, although doing a lot of damage at the end of the game. You mentioned big facilitation by the end of the game. Vote, my goodness. Not allowed to play. Is it going to happen to the Hunter this time? No. Bifrost and Shell there. Action in the mid lane as Dardes taken low. Baronic not level 5 just yet. Cubo Fred, same for him. Baronic dodges out the damage, and he will survive on the left of the fight. He goes back in. Dardes back in base, had his ult. That won't bring him back to lane. So Baronic balancing on a tightrope there, able to stay afloat.
He is. Baronic actually behind a little bit of experience at this point as Scream leaps over the wall to try and put a little bit of contention onto these right side mid camps. Kali go directly into a kin size in this next slot. Serrated Edge, another great option for this god. Scream, he doesn't have too much of a game ahead of him that he has to wait through, I should say. He's got plenty of game to play,
You know
though.
what he's waiting for, though, Myth, is Cubo Fred.
Watch this damage.
Ping down onto the Hun bat. Stun there as well.
What?
Collapsing on the wall.
What?
Goodbye, Cubo Fred. See you later. In 15 seconds, you're allowed to play again, but Scream will shut him down with the help of Inbound. He is evaporated from the map. 6.5 minutes into this game, you thought you were getting a speed buff. It wasn't even up. And lucky for Cubo Fred, he'll at least be able to respawn and grab his speed because that was going over to Scream as well if it were there.
To make sure he's there, dedication of the Earthen Fury on the dot damage from the lash out from Scream. It's just clean.
Yeah, Inbound.
See ya.
Inbound plays a massive role in that as well. Obviously, Scream is the highlight. He's there. But it's that chain CC that you're highlighting, Myth. I mean, that is an executed play between 2 members of the Solar Scarabs.
We're hovering in the jungle. I think the gold lead we're currently sitting at 4,000, by the way, 8 minutes in, is pretty bad. I mean, I'm just going to say it blatantly, completely candid. This is a tough lead, and it might just get worse.
They're going to do it again. Stun from Baronic, not there. Waiting in the mist was Cubo
Good
Fred.
ults.
Fear No Evil down. Fear's out too. Look at the re-engage. Double stun from Scream. And Dardes has to back away. Nika back from base, walking towards Scream here, who still has the ultimate. Destruction thrown down, but it'll secure his escape this time. Nika from range.
Good blink.
To grab a kill, but the blink gets used. And that'll keep Scream on the map. And that is a good answer from the Oni Warriors. You don't get a kill, but you don't lose anyone. And so some signs of life from the order
Every
team.
single mid camp that the Solar Scarabs showed up to, they took with nobody there to fight them back. Sure, you could say, that's because we've got a Kronos mid. We can't fight in the early. Who made that decision? It was the Oni Warriors. I'm not going to give them an inch. I'll give them every bit of credit when they do well, but when they do poorly, you got to say that as well.
All right, so here's the neutral objective.
You have to show up.
Full caps, you got to show up to this. Nika's alone. It's a party of one for the Oni
Cubo's
Warriors.
in. Good old.
It's a big Fear No Evil from Cubo Fred. Gives the Oni Warriors some life here.
There it is.
In game number 2, but Scream, the chainsaw's got fuel in it, and it is starting to rev. Scream has got the first, SOT has got the second, and we will double back towards the FG, and the Solar Scarab should get that as well.
So where's Vote? He's in the left side of the map, going to take out a tier 2 tower. Got to hope that he gets a Phoenix to match the pressure that the Solar Scarabs are going to get from this Fire Giant. And what's happening to Dardes? Also going for a split push, but now he's lined up against SOT with a 2-level lead and the Fire Giant. The Oni Warriors slow on the uptake. Only a couple members rotate in to put up a defense on this neutral objective, and it goes about as well as you could hope for from Cubo Fred, who hits a Category 5 Natural Disaster Ultimate, and it just does not matter. The Solar Scarabs have routed their enemy. King-size composition from the Solar Scarabs.
And
Nika
Wind Demon.
does not want to go into Descent into Madness because he's going to put a target on his back. Tier 2 tower burning quickly. Neilma the target.
Neilma also burning quickly here. SOT takes some damage from Vote. On the other end of this fight, Stun does not connect.
Ooh, good
Riptide
CC.
does, but Hades is vibing at above 50% HP despite all that connecting onto him. So Bumba's Hammer ends up being the pickup followed by a Mask. We like to keep intrigue going. If the Solar Scarabs don't win game 2, that's disastrous.
I also am not allowed to F6 anymore if that happens.
Right, that's true. Myth, right, Myth life implications on the line. But to really set the stage, this game should be over after one more fight. The Solar Scarabs are so far ahead, and they have been for so long. Triple kin size is going to make quick work of the Fire
Scarabs
Giant.
got it.
Should make quick work of Nika. It's Descent into Madness. It's Fear No Evil. It's nothing from the Oni Warriors. It's everything from the Solar Scarabs. Cubo Fred falls one more time this game. No kills on the board for the Oni Warriors. Stewart will grab his first. Everyone from the Scarabs grouping up. Dardes will be the last alive in game 2, Myth. It will end.
Dardes does get the rewind off, so maybe finds one kill. Who am I kidding? That won't go his way. Double for
blanked.
SOT, and the Solar Scarabs blank them in 2.
Oh my God, this is brutal. This is brutal to watch.
It's
Myth.
draft dip.
It is
We
a
knew.
9-kill game. All of them for the Solar Scarabs, and 5 of them happening in one team fight. We had 4 kills in 20 minutes leading up to this point. 4 kills in 25 minutes leading up to this point. And 11,000 gold comes of it. This is decimation. This is decimation. The Oni Warriors, if you're going to do...
I mean, Mifflin was appropriately harsh, I think, to the Warriors, the way that they're playing and the way that they're drafting. They just have not looked good at all so far in this set. But how many times has Neilma done it to people? And namely 2 of his teammates now, in Vote and Nika and Dardes, 3 of his teammates rather. So it's not over for the Warriors. Neil has them right where he wants them, but at the same time, man, they have so much they need to change because the Scarabs are just being so much more aggressive on the map. They're being the initiators. The Warriors continue to just not really be active participants in what is going on in this game. And if that doesn't change, it doesn't matter how good their picks and bans will be. It just won't matter.
Just good team fights. Baronic on this Charybdis. Not exactly the combo I thought we were going to come into today seeing, but one that I am more than happy to continue watching. That goes hand in hand with this one right here. Solar Troll on this Hades has been game-changing for the Scarabs. Very impactful. 3-0-3 for him. Scream looked phenomenal on this Kali. And I think this is maybe one of your best-case scenarios if you're a Kali. If the game's going to go this long, nobody's going to put pressure on you early on. That's your dream. Hey, go ahead and farm, get to late game, and then just play the game.
Yeah, I mean, you just get to build 3 chin size if you're the Solar Scarabs, and I'm asking for Nika to play this Cthulhu, and it doesn't look very good, and then you go, oh, maybe it's because they have 3 chin size and no one else with me. I mean, Fred just not an impact in that game again. Dardes on this Kronos didn't get a whole lot done. I mean, a lot of structure damage for Vote and Dardes.
We'll see if they end up going for that one here. Picks and bans for game number 3. The Scarabs could potentially take it all, and I'll give them credit, maybe a lot faster than I anticipated on this day. The Warriors need 3 in a row. It's a tall order, but like you said, Cubo and Neil have been there pretty recently when you look at competitive history, and they go for a Hades ban first. SOT has been this much of a problem for them.
That's unbelievable. And it's, you know what, maybe it's warranted. I'm sure Nika is like, listen, man, I just don't want to play against it again. Like, I just can't do what I want to do in this laning phase. We're not punishing it properly. Let's take it out. And the Warriors, you know what, when you're down 0-2 and nothing has worked, you've got to change something. And so, and if it's changing the Hades out, I'm fine with that. That does not offend me. They don't ban Geb this game. And now the Scarabs go, oh yeah, do we want to give up Geb? You can trade Geb for Umoja. That's not the end of the world, but I feel like Geb is significantly stronger than every other Guardian in the game, personally.
Geb, Umoja, Artio was someone that was in that conversation. I actually really like this. You get to see the Warriors adapting as time goes on, right? The Sylvanas Solar Run, very strong in Game 1, ends up coming through and getting banned in Game 2. Tack on the Hades from Games 1 and 2 to that. And so they are just chipping away at the only things we've seen the Scarabs play so far in this set. But it doesn't seem to be worrying too much of the Scarabs. This ban is definitely on their mind. Odin, Morgan have been there the entire time. It has been 2 different Guardians for this third one, and I think you're on the money. It's whether or not they want to deal with Geb or not.
Wow.
They go for Camazotz.
Wow.
And I want to ask you, with Geb available, Artio available, Umoja available, Cthulhu available, there's a lot of options for both solo and your supports.
Yeah, I pick Geb. I pick Geb. That's wild. That's wild.
You're in a different world than the Warriors, apparently.
You know,
So
I come off the last
if
set,
you're the
Thor.
Scarabs,
You know,
you
I
pick
come
Geb.
off the last set. Here's what happens, okay? I come off the last set. I think, I was a little harsh on the Warriors, I think, during that draft. And then Mifflin buries them during the cast, and appropriately so.
I think
and
the
I
Scarabs
come on
did a
to
lot
this
of the
guest-
burying, too.
Well, yeah.
Well, they dug the grave.
Right.
Mifflin put the dirt back.
I come into this desk thinking I need to, be a little bit more kind to the Warriors.
Yeah.
I need to give and give a little bit more credit to the Scarabs, which they absolutely deserve, and I don't want anyone to think otherwise. But they aren't going to pick Geb either, which is my mind is melting out of my ears. It's a Halloween massacre scene on the desk from my brain leaving my body.
And you want to talk about other first picks that we've seen over both Umoja. Geb, not necessarily over Geb, but
They can still
Terra.
get it here, by the way.
Terra's not been picked up either. So Geb, Terra available for the front line. We'll see what Neilma wants. Charybdis and Umoja. And I shouldn't have to bring this up because as of late, it hasn't necessarily been the case, but not a great win rate track record for the Scarabs and Umoja.
No, but he's been
But
playing
more
better on
recently, it has been, much better performance.
So maybe the Warriors are just going to forego the Geb entirely, which would really be a curveball that no one expected. You go back to this Charybdis here for Baronic in the mid lane, you have to assume clearly the Scarabs are not worried about being too physical heavy. They prioritize the Terra over the Geb. Yo, if I'm the rest of this group, if I'm the rest of Group B and I'm watching these picks and bans and I'm seeing Geb not touched in the first 3 picks or the first 3 bans, I'm like, oh, sweet, so we get to pick that. Like, we get to just make teams ban that. We can make both these teams ban it against us because they just don't prioritize it as heavily as every other team seems to be. But I got to move on eventually from it. Umoja, Charybdis, Tsukiyomi is a really strong top 3 here for the Scarabs. And having this Charybdis still bring that flex pick potential. If I'm the Warriors, I'm banning Magical Guardian, your Magical Soul Laners. I'm banning Cthulhu first and foremost. And then I'm banning Cerberus, probably. Those would be my 2 bans just to keep... If the Scarabs want to go all in on physical, they can. I can't ban Hunters away from them to not let them go double Hunter. But I can at least make their composition more unbalanced. And I'm surprised at the Warriors. I mean, I know that Stewart has a really good Heimdall. Like you said, he plays it more than any other Hunter. But I really feel like the difference between Cthulhu and Cerberus and then the rest of the Guardians that you could play in solo is so vast that you're giving the Scarabs a really balanced draft right away.
And, going, I think, even further on that, we saw the Oleron Game 1. We saw it was the Seasonami that the Warriors have taken away in Game 2. But even without Heimdall and Hachime, there's still plenty of Hunters that are available that admittedly maybe aren't at the top of the list, but we saw a lot of ROM highlights that were very interesting and still capable.
Yeah,
Uller is still
ROM,
available and
Chernabog, Uller, all those
Soul.
are options. Soul, good option. I mean, you can go with anything like that. I do think the difference between Soul and Heimdall and Hachi for Stewart in particular, Stewart's pretty unproven on this Soul if that's where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
This could be a switch up where Stewart gets the Charybdis this time around, and now and Baronic gets that Soul, and that could work very well for them. But overall, the Scarabs just get to keep picking exactly what they want. They want these double Hunter comps. They want to be able to play front to back and have a strong front line. And now, Solar Troll gets to see the entire draft before he locks in his pick.
Yeah, feels very happy for a solo laner to be able to do so. The Tsukiyomi was banned out in game number 1, so I'm excited to see what Scream's going to be able to do with that, especially considering what the Scarabs just did in game number 2, so it makes things even more interesting for them. And that's the thing, they're on a tear right now. I mean, game 1, you get a very slow start for the Warriors, and then they just stopped for a while, and the Scarabs continued controlling it. A good steal really helped solidify things for them. Game 2, they just took it from the get-go, and now they get the Erlong Shin alongside this Discordia that's locked in. Both of these feel very Warriors-esque for them. Cuvo's going to be a huge portion of this. We've seen what Scream can do on Tsukiyomi. We've seen what he's doing this set. I feel like this Erlong has to go big.
I think so, too. Fred has got to step up in the way that he's playing. He has got to make a bigger difference for sure. This .G pick.
That's a Tsukiyomi solo, baby.
That's a Tsukiyomi solo. And they snapped the ankles of the Oni Warriors with this juke, and they did it to me, too. That broke my brain for a second. Dude, this .G pick is genius from the Scarabs. Like, my God, they have completely bamboozled the Oni Warriors. They've deceived them. They've bamboozled them. Play the Stephen A. Smith clip. I forget all that he says. Artio Izanami, Terra Erlong Shen, no CC immunity.
AB inbound, can occasionally find 1 or 2 targets with the stuns. If you're lucky, Baronic's just using his ultimate off a free hand and burning a beads that way. But outside of that, it generally just is Scream. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's not too much inherent CC immunity on the Oni Warriors, just Dardes with the golden apple. So if Scream burns beads with Pal, he can walk back, go farm for a little bit, come back 50, 60 seconds later, and then get the kill in his own right. But that's hard to execute on. So the Solar Scarabs have a great draft, but they've got to perform.
Yeah, you put down the primer, you still got to paint the wall. The Solar Scarabs have the ability to do that here.
I like that.
Yeah, I was going to gas myself up, but unfortunately, SOT and Nika brawling it out here. Oh, no. Is it going to start the same way as game number 2? No, it's not. Neomon will walk away this time. But unfortunate start to this lane for the Oni Warriors. Inbound plus Stewart have already found themselves some pressure. Pick, I think, in the Discordia. Could throw a wrench into the mix if they would have played at the top level. There's plenty of single target instances of CC as well, or small instances of CC for the Oni Warriors. Maybe you can do stuff like this. Find an invade onto Scream, who gets knocked up. And Cubo Fred in on the chase. Stun is there from Nika. Then the Oni Warriors, they have started off game 3 in the perfect way. They shut down the Daji.
Great job slowing down that Pal from coming online. The Oni Warriors accurately identifying the threat of the Solar Scarabs. And when you want to talk about what the Oni Warriors can do, it is a strong, standard Smite composition. Each one of these pieces individually is incredibly good. But Neomon in some trouble yet again.
Oh, you can't die over here in duo. And Neil has been in red HP for what feels like the last couple of trades there in that lane. He is out of potions as well, and so he'll head on back to base. Will Neoma. Yeah, that was right. Will Neoma. Solar Scarabs find pressure in that lane. Unfortunately, no purple buff to invade. There's a blue buff to invade that has been taken by the Oni Warriors. Is it going to happen to Cubo Fred? It's not your speed buff this time, but it's a back harpies, and Baronic deletes him. And a swift answer back by the Solar Scarabs to get a kill on board.
Just paying it forward, the exact same play, but this time Uno reverse card, Solar Scarabs able to pull one back. But I want to go back into the analysis of the Oni Warriors composition. Each piece is good. You've got late game win composition or late game team fight wins built into your draft just because Terra exists on that side. You've got pressure in the solo lane, or maybe pressure over in the right. Nika in some trouble.
SOT is low, but Nika dashed on by Scream. Scream still level 4. Is there enough damage? There's gotta be. Caltrops go down, and so does Nika, and the Solar Scarabs pay another visit
Cubo
to the solo lane. Will it be paid off, though? Cubo Fred has a route into this lane. Cubo Fred, oh, what a timing on the taunt, the knock up there onto SOT, but beneath this tier 1 tower, the heal from the 9 turns blessing will save his life. Neomaz here on right, but so is Inbound, and I think that 1 for none is where we'll stand.
Neoma might have kill potential if he realizes how low SOT is, but doesn't love taking a 1 versus 3 engagement. And the Solar Scarabs, despite some fight back from the Oni Warriors early on, are still able to establish themselves a small lead. And Stewart solo invading up against Vote? Soul doesn't have that kind of pressure. That's not what you picked this god for.
Disapparate is gone. Vote still has Dark Portal beads used by Stewart.
Stun
avoided. there. Neilma goes in through the pillar, and Stewart will end up dying. And we have not seen a lot of this, Myth. A lot of pressure on the left side of the map. Outside of an early kill in game 2, pressure, that's where you want to start to find some impact.
It is. He's hit himself a very nice power spike already. His Vote takes a fair deal of damage. They want the engage.
Dashing out is Vote, and surviving is Vote. Can you say the same for Nika? That's the question. Ult is here for Scream. Beads in range for Nika, and he will use them. Piercing Moonlight under the tier 1 tower, but the tower returning a lot of damage. Sustain there for Nika as well. Neilma and Cubo Fred, they're answering quickly. Scream does not have his ultimate, neither does SOT.
Good juke!
Oh, he avoids the stun, gets the stun onto Nika. But it's death at whose hand is the question, and Nika's the answer.
SOT drops down the call drops on the wave, just trying to make sure he finds some farm as the minions kill each other, but very nearly was able to shut down Nika. Had Scream not gone in with SOT off the Piercing Moonlight, maybe Nika falls. It's that Druid stance heal that tops him off. Double target means that he's healing a little bit more there. Nika, though, has to play safe in this lane. 1 level lead for the RDO.
3 versus 2 impending here on right. Dash in from Scream. 9 turns blessing.
Massive
That's
ults
great from Cubo Fred. Big damage onto Scream. River's Rebuke separates us out, but Scream, he is living. He is not dying. He is walking away from this fight. Cubo Fred has no mana.
Still healing.
Neilma has no HP. And this is detrimental to say the least for the Oni Warriors. Scream turns around the early woes, and it's a double kill for the Scarabs to get back in the game.
Oni Warriors, they might be the ones aggressing.
Oni Warriors will drop some ward coverage and clear some ward coverage that the Solar Scarabs have already set up. Oracles for free for the Oni Warriors as well. Don't be fooled, the Gold Fury just procking on whoever's there. The Oni Warriors have not started it up just yet. 5 versus 5. This is a fight we have not seen until the end of the game in games 1 and 2. Appears to be brewing a bit quicker here in game number 3. SOT strifed in place, stunned by Nika on the other end as well. You do not want to miss your Tsukiyomi this early on in the fight. You've got some sustain from inbound. But it's going to have to fill up that health bar quickly because the Gold Fury started up by the Oni Warriors. A little bit of crit for Vote, and that's connecting onto the Gold Fury. Everyone has their relics going into this next fight. Inbound.
Great
ult
ult
for the River's Rebuke, and it is on to Neilma. 3 stuns on the backside, though. Keep the Solar Scarabs right where they are. An early loss in this fight, but that's a huge ultimate from Cubo.
3 knock.
And all the cleave damage from the Oni Warriors is in on the back end of this fight. We said the disco needs to be big, and it is big. Dardes with the double.
That's all Cubo Fred with that initiation. The start of the fight goes incredibly well for the Solar Scarabs. It was a River's Rebuke off of Neilma dashing in, isolates him, but too much commitment from the Solar Scarabs onto the support opens them up to the re-engage. Oni Warriors, Cubo Fred blinks
Rains
in.
It pours, and the Solar Scarabs, they have been flawless on the neutral objectives up to this point. And this fight will lose the Scarabs their first neutral objective of the set, really. That's a great apple, great setup from from Cubo Fred, rather, capitalized on by Dardes.
Playing with nearly 4,000 gold in the lead, just about. That's significant.
You're talking about no resistance, Myth.
It's an inverse.
Yeah, total inverse. The Scarabs have pulled every neutral objective with no pushback by the Warriors so far this set. Gotta be some pushback here. This game is not that far out of control. The Scarabs need to contest this, and they are in
massive
range.
ult.
It is a big ultimate. What can Scream get done here? Keep your eyes on the powwow. Nobody pulled in. Piercing Moonlight from SOT that re-engages on Neilma. Boat. Dardes. Now they see SOT. He's all alone, and he's not tanky enough to survive this just yet. But inbound, chasing down the backliners of the Oni Warriors. A Riptide is good.
He peeled him out.
It sends SOT right back the other way. Nika dashes back through. SOT will live no longer, and it's a killing spree for Dardes.
SOT lived for so ridiculously long, distracting so many members of the Oni Warriors, but the Solar Scarabs were not able to capitalize on it. Not enough damage output, shell, meditation, riptides, all there.
Game number 3, finding answers to what the Solar Scarabs have thrown at them. And it looks like it's going to be another Fire Giant pull by the Solar Scarabs. Pin no good by Cubo Fred this time. Nika takes the stun from SOT, who's respawned, but without his actives this time. Fire Giant, soft reset by the Oni Warriors. They will continue to play forward, Myth, despite every set of beads being down.
Every single one. Penta beads not available right now to the Oni Warriors, and with Scream rejoining the fight, Palau available. Gotta think this could be an opportunity, and the Solar Scarabs know it.
Solar Scarabs agree. Nika around the backside of this fight. Palau from Scream. This one's gotta be big. And it looks like it won't be. Nika gets pulled back through Scream. drops back down, and he's alone. Cubo Fred will kill Scream, and Scream will die alone. The Oni Warriors find another pick despite no beads. Still being up and ready to go. That's a perfect moment for a Daji to make the impact. And the Oni Warriors flip the script.
Over-aggression and overzealousness from the Solar Scarabs, who go in knowing that beads are down. Now's our time, but you have time to play with. Those beads are still down. Instead, it's, we got to go now. Scream heads up in the air. He sees, okay, maybe I pull Cubo Fred. Wait, no, Magi's Blessing still available. Maybe I pull Nika. Well, not exactly the target that I want. That's an RDO. Pulls him anyway, and nobody else in range for this Daji to pull in. The Solar Scarabs, they are struggling to utilize the CC in their composition, and now the Oni Warriors with a massive gold lead and Fire Giant on 5. Plenty of towers left to collect. They've got a great position for the rest of this game.
You smell that, Myth?
Instead of game 4.
Yeah, smells like, it's weird that game 4 smells like pumpkin spice, isn't it?
Damage output of the Warriors is incredibly high. What's come back to bite them, and it was my initial concern so far in this set for the Solar Scarabs, is their lack of CC. It really just is Daji burning these beads or Magi's consistently, and that is simply not enough.
Right, it feels good to say Daji has a great matchup, but what else have you got after that if that doesn't work out? The Oni Warriors, Myth, we set them up. We set Dardes really up in this game. The Discordia got to find big damage numbers, and highest on the team, nearly highest in the game. Not nearly. Few thousand damage behind is Dardes, but it's a big power spike going into this next fight. Obsidian Shard ready to go. Everyone on the Oni Warriors have their beads as well. Nika, plenty of tanky in that kit. And Nilma will send some healing back behind him, so you can tank up that Phoenix, but you can already see it's not going to be easy to fight into what the Solar Scarabs have there. Privy to the positioning of one another. This will be an enhanced Fire Giant the moment it spawns. And so the Solar Scarabs kind of soft show up around the last one. Scream, remember, immediately dies despite no beads being there. Comes down from the Palau, dies, and then the Solar Scarabs made no look at it after that. This is maybe the call where if you lose the enhanced Fire Giant, the rest of the game hasn't quite been going your way. So a big call here from the Solar Scarabs, and the answer is let's engage on the back line. Already one set of beads used, 2 sets of beads used. Scream has gotten both of those. What can you do with that advantage? SOT taunted in by Cubo Fred, and he is absolutely melting. Look at Vote on the back end of this fight, finding all the auto attacks he needs. He dashes in aggressively. Dardes finds a first. Dardes has got the double. The Discordia has not slowed down. 5-0-3 for the Warriors mid.
The Oni Warriors now in a 5 versus 3 scenario. Only 3 members left from the Scarabs. SOT, Scream, and Stewart. And it might just be Scream and Stewart. SOT isolated.
Could it be the soft 3 for Dardes? It will not be. And now the Solar Scarabs down to just Scream and Stewart. And Scream has stuck around. Does not have Palaus. But there is a ward from Dardes right outside the entrance of the Fire Giant pit. Scream getting close. There is a ward here.
He can.
And he just does not have the time. He'll get spotted out by the ward coverage, but it's enhanced Fire Giant for all 5 members of the Oni Warriors. And if Scream gets caught here, Myth, that's pretty impactful. Apple, no good, but damage sure is from Dardes. And that is a big stagger now. Scream gone for the next minute, and the Oni Warriors barrel down the right side of the map.
They've already nearly approached fully build 6 items, so the Oni Warriors don't need to head back to base. Instead, want to utilize this time while SOT and Scream are both dead. Right side Phoenix exposed, and where is Stewart? Wrong side of the map. He's going to go back to base late. Oni Warriors, this one's free.
Oni Warriors keeping things interesting here. The pumpkin spice heating up a little bit further, nearly done in the oven for a game 4 between the Scarabs and the Oni Warriors. Mid lane Phoenix will get taken down quickly, and why not shift things over to left? You're still without Scream for 20 seconds. Ultimate's all ready to go outside of inbounds.
From Nika. The rest of them struggling a little bit more so. Vote actually sitting at the bottom.
And I think that's so important to look at for Dardes again, where Vote has struggled this game. He's 0-0-9, so he's gotten a lot of assists, don't get me wrong. But where Stewart and Baronic have struggled to find hefty damage numbers, at least comparable to Dardes. Dardes is doubling up both of the carries of the Solar Scarabs.
Where'd it go?
Vote could show up here in this last fight. He's done plenty of structure damage. And that's all the Oni Warriors need. Game number 4. Right around the corner of one final team fight for the Oni Warriors. They have been swept in games 1 and 2, decimated even. But they have taken it to the Solar Scarabs in game number 3. Want one more chance, 2 more chances. Got to win one at a time, and this would be a great first step for the Oni Warriors getting back into this set. You're biding your time. Beads all back up, all ready to go. All it takes is a little unchecked damage from Vote onto that Titan to make life uncomfortable. It's a slow, cautious engage from the Oni Warriors.
Unruly Magic does 10% of the Titan's HP on its own. That's how quickly it could go.
We are fighting as Inbound throws up the River's Rebuke. Scream is evaporated as Vote will find his first kill of the game in the most pivotal fight of the game. SOT locked in place. Dark Portal finds its way on to the Tsukiyomi yet again. The Oni Warrior surging forward. Goodbye, Titan. And hello, Game 4.
Oni Warriors showing some signs of life in the back half of this set. They might go down, but
all very bullish on the comp for the Scarabs, but that's why they play the games. You know, it can't just be determined in the drafting phase. When was the last time we saw Fred take a fight at 2.5 minutes, like in the enemy jungle? It just doesn't happen that often. It certainly didn't happen earlier this set.
Maybe Worlds, honestly,
Yeah.
like if even.
That's definitely been one of the biggest differences. I thought that he was huge. Dardes, this is the play, man. I mean, it's a massive engage from Fred. Huge Strife, huge Apple, huge Unruly Magic. He's got it all, man. It's just too good there from Dardes. This is the type of pick I want to see him on. He's so good on Discordia. And that's why I'm so incredulous when they pick like Chronos instead. Pick this. This is better.
Definitely looked better, felt better. 8.0 KDA, 27,000 damage. That is the output from Dardes here. Looks good. But again, it's backs against the wall. The Scarabs have had a couple of things knocked away from them here. Specifically, note the bans this last time really limited what they were capable of. And maybe showcased, even though we liked the draft going into game number 3, what the Warriors are capable of. 6-0-4, 10 affected kills there for Dardes. Not alone in that, 10 affected kills down there for Vote as well at 1-0-9. Doing a lot of setup for each other. And I think that's what you could ask for out of Cuvo Fred as well. Really good frontline plays. Made things much more interesting for the way this set has been shaking down. And highest damage by a thin margin over Solar Troll, but by a large margin over literally anybody else in the game. 10k up over Nika. So SOT putting in a lot of work on the Tsukiyomi. Those chats that we earned him a Worlds MVP.
I know, but I mean, they won the game where he wasn't talking. That's all I'm saying.
He'll take that up with you the next time y'all go golfing. I can feel it now.
We'll
We'll see what happens. The Solar Scarabs, for the first time this set, will be your first pick team. We'll see what they're going to be changing things up because they've been banning the Morgan, Odin, Kamazats was in their last one, but those two have been the go-tos.
You know what I would toss in there instead, though? Instead of that Kamazats? I'd just ban Discordia. I think it's that easy. I really do. I think that Dardes was so good on this Discordia. I think Erlong Shen is a pick that is so easy to pick around and play around that you don't need to worry about him as much. I think I'd be worried about the Disco. They decided to take out the RDO. Not the direction I necessarily would have gone. They handled it really well in game 1, but is just a guaranteed lane bully pick there for Nika. So makes some sense to take that away.
Trying to slow things down. So Hades the Ola run once again for the Warriors. Last game they rounded this out with Sylvanas, trying to strip something away from Inbound. I will say this, as much as I hate harping on it, Inbound has such great Yamoja plays, and he still loses on the pick. It breaks my heart.
I know.
It really does.
Cursed.
Because it is something that has been a massive improvement from what we once saw. Joining that RDO is going to be the Terra. We've had a lot of Geb talk in the past, wondering if that's going to be a viable option here for the Scarabs based on what the Warriors decide to ban out.
I mean, it is. It's just a matter of whether or not they want it. It looks like they're setting themselves up for a Yamoja first pick, though, with the RDO and the Terra bans. I really think that if they were willing to value it over the Geb in the last game, maybe they decide, all right, Yamoja didn't work, let's just pick Geb. I think that's probably the right decision. It's just such an easier god to execute on and is inherently stronger right now, I think, with what he brings to the table. I think the Warriors are trying to decide, will the Scarabs top pick the Geb, or can we maybe get the opportunity because they valued the Terra over it, but now that's off the board. And if the Scarabs valued Yamoja over Geb, then you expect them to take Yamoja, and that would leave you Geb, would be the way it could go. And that's they decide to leave it open. So they ban Odin, makes total sense. That god's been very good. This does leave open Sylvanas as well, though.
And that's a pick I will admit, I was not expecting to see go up number one. I was expecting a whole lot, and maybe having a little bit of time to talk about what was going to go.
And
that
they
was in.
snapped it, like no hesitation. Sylvanas, open, give me that. I should have had that.
Is he strong enough to warrant this? I mean, we've
No.
seen a couple of teams do this. The Kings did it, and I believe the other day they did it, and they won that game.
He's good. He's good enough to first pick in a world where Geb is banned. I believe.
And Geb was banned that game.
Yeah, I'm down with that. Look, until proven otherwise, I think Geb is just the best god in the game right now. I think he's that good. So I think you should play him. He doesn't have as many weaknesses as he used to have. He still does have some weaknesses. I think Sylvanas is actually a pick that can punish him pretty well because his laning phase isn't great. Sylvanas' laning phase is very good.
Yeah.
Root pull before he's level 3. Easy kill. You know, you can make a lot of stuff happen there.
The thing we've seen a lot of combos, it's been the Sylvanas Izanami combo that just absolutely destroys minions overall. But if you're looking to make up for the lack of pressure in lane, Izanami seems like a great way to balance it out.
Agreed.
Somebody else that we've been talking about a ton the last couple of weeks has been this Cthulhu. That 63% win rate across 19 games is well earned. So we'll see if this is going to be worthwhile for them. Also, I believe the first look that we're going to have of this Cthulhu this set, despite how prominent he's been in a lot of these other games.
Yeah, I like the pick here for the Scarabs. Cthulhu Heim, really like this top 3. They're getting away from this Charybdis that Baronic has played recently, trying to maybe put him on a more traditional mage. I think he's played very well on that Charybdis, but I don't mind just giving your team a different look. You know, trying the same thing 4 times in a row, having success 2 out of those 3. You just don't want to give good teams the same look at the same pick that many times, unless it's totally dominating. So I like the top 3 for the Scarabs. That being said, I mean, the Warriors, they get Geb, Izanami, so to cover the Geb weakness in lane, they get the Iza. Geb, as I said, I think is maybe the strongest god in the game. And then you've got Discordia, who looks like Dardez's best god right now. It's a good start for the Warriors. Very good start.
Especially after that last game.
Yep.
I expect a lot out of this Discordia coming from mid. We're still looking for a jungler and a mid laner on the other side, so the Warriors opting to go for a Gilgamesh ban to start things off in the second phase. Same thing, jungle.
Smart.
As well as the solo laner for the other side. The Erlong Shen was a huge thorn in their side, set up a lot, as you had highlighted. And that's something they're going to get rid of. Now the Kali ban comes through. Again, maybe not something I expected to see, but after game 2, understandable.
Yeah, understandable. I mean, you're looking for Fred to have something to just help initiate. You know, you kind of want this Geb to be able to blink in, Cataclysm, then immediately turn to the back line and look back there and allow Fred to go in over the top after that. So I think getting Fred something with some mobility in this instance could be a good look for them. I mean, the Hunbats that he played earlier didn't have a great game on it, but could go that direction. I think Camazotz is probably fine here in this draft. It would mean that I think Nika needs more CC coming out of the solo lane, but overall, I mean, Kama's a god that Fred's been comfortable on. Serket is open. You could pick that, though I think Cthulhu cares so little about what Serket's doing the entirety of the game that maybe de-incentivizes me, but I like Serket up against Sylvanas Heim and insert mage here. Okay, sure. Yeah, whatever. We didn't need to talk about any, yeah, that's fine. Cool.
I had
Cool.
3 or 4 different questions, or at least junglers to talk to you about, like Achilles being banned, Kali being banned. I was going to ask about Nemesis and say things about dealing with Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Mulan. We've seen her a lot in the SCC. We've seen her a few times here in the SBL, but not a whole lot. And I think the last time we saw her was Sam, I believe, playing her in the jungle. She has not been a mainstay.
No.
I don't know how this lane's going to go.
Well, she just got a buff to training exercise, so her abilities evolve more quickly. That's nice. We like that. But pretty unproven, I'd say, and how good it's going to be. Now, when Mulan gets ahead, absolute lane dominator. Complete lane bully, just dominates the lane, and Cthulhu is not going to pressure her out. So you have the opportunity to really run away with that right side of the map. And that's what you have to do now. If you're willing to pick Mulan, you have to get in there, and you have to absolutely be on every blue. Solar Patrol should not have a blue after his first one until like 8 minutes into this game. He just shouldn't have one, because if you're willing to play the Mulan, you've got to pick around it.
Well, if you thought the Kali Kronos Hades game earlier
I
was
did.
going to be the weirdest we got, not only do we have this Mulan, we got a new wall lock-in. Now, Aggro, I'll give you some merits. Her ult hits everybody.
Yeah,
That's
and
pretty good,
And you only
right?
get one Geb Shield,
Yeah, exactly. See?
so you can't get them all. That's the strat.
She
Look,
stuns.
I-
There's fog. They have that in the jungle now.
I am a notorious Nuwa apologist.
Okay.
I love this god. I think she brings way more utility than most people give her credit for.
Maybe the most important change being that training exercise levels up a little bit more quickly. You're going to get that sustain in lane a little bit more quickly, meaning that up against SOT on a Cthulhu, a god that generally does struggle against lane bullies, you're going to have a significant advantage. But Aggro brings up a great point on the desk. If you lock in Mulan and you are not utilizing that massive aggression, that pressure that she generates out of the solo to invade blue buffs, back camps, controlling those singular harpies around the soul lane, you're probably not getting the value from Mulan. If Nika doesn't rotate into the first team fight with a 2 or 3 level lead, you're probably not getting value from this Mulan whatsoever. So a lot of onus on the Oni Warriors soul lane to perform here on an unorthodox pick. Maybe we see that attention shifted, though, because of the other unorthodox pick in the game, Nuwa. Hugo Fred very likely could just say, I want to shut down Baronic and leave Nika to his own devices.
The Warriors can capitalize on.
If Baronic's mist is down and Cuvo Fred is nearby, that ultimate can just be a death sentence for Nuwa, but yet again, Cuvo Fred's got another target that he has to concern himself with his ultimate. The SOT can't be allowed as Dardas. He's falling low.
Whoa! Little bit of damage from Baronic, misses on the side. Scream did a lot there. And Darda's lucky to be walking away without giving over first blood to the Solar Scarabs. Bangs, maybe a bit frustratingly. Drop down from Dardas. Yeah, my man is here, and he's walking into lane. Or maybe it's Cuvo Fred saying, I'm going to chase him back to his speed buff. Blink over the wall. Speed buff. Invade. Good for Cuvo Fred. He'll pick it up, and he will head on out. Because look at this. Mulan is here to help secure the escape. Dardas a little bit low, but he's one level ahead. Cuvo Fred slowed, stunned as SOT rotates out of solo as well. Big damage onto Baronic. Goodbye. Hello, first blood for the Oni Warriors. Cuvo Fred dashes on out here as well. The mire goes down, but the strife is amazing from Dardas. Forces the beads out of Scream. Nika wants more. He will blink forward. It's an exchanged blink by SOT, and the fear will be enough. First blood plus speed buff to the Warriors.
Great invade from the Oni Warriors, utilizing that early pressure of Nika. I thought it was blue buff invades, but we went one better for the Oni Warriors. Speed buff taken away, and Cuvo Fred walks out a free man. That's a lot of time come late game. So if the Solar Scarabs are able to withstand without falling too far behind, that's one way back in. And it seems like SOT might just have to give up this blue buff. Drop down to 50%. Cuvo Fred and Nika already here.
Blue buff on the exact same timer as one another. So the Oni Warriors have a rough estimate. Look at Neilma just rolling in from the backside of this fight. What? We might not need Neil.
What?
Scream is able to walk on out. That was a cataclysm from Neil.
It was a cataclysm, yep.
He pressed the ultimate button. There was nobody inside of it, but he did use it. How impactful is that going to be? Around this blue buff could be important because it is pulled by the Oni Warriors. There's an answer. Baronic is going to gank around the backside.
Is he?
If he chooses. He's a level down in the mist as Dardas. Nika is just going to walk at Scream and finish off what the Oni Warrior started. And this is the power point in this game for the Mulan. And Nika is showing us why and where this pick can have an impact.
All right, SOT tries to flick towards the wave and flicks into the wall. The Solar Scarabs looking shaky. Warriors. Neilma rolls in from the lane, tries to blink, does not. Cataclysms his feet, and the Solar Scarabs were not able to fight their way back in. Scream overstays, and Nika says, why are you still here?
No.
And put some down, and now SOT.
What's the ult cooldown? You can dive this if you have your ultimate. You have that gap
Whoa.
closed. Blink out from SOT. And my goodness.
Oh, Vote's ahead too.
Vote is ahead as well. Piercing Moonlight in from Scream. Will it cost Vote his life? No, it will not. Dark Portal down. Scream takes a tower shot. And normally that'd be worrying if anyone from the Oni Warriors were on this side of the map. Neil is going to roll on in the backside. Does not have Cataclysm to throw down just yet, so the ground is safe for the time being. The Oni Warriors off to a great start in Game 4, Myth.
Is
Continuing
he
to
dead?
capitalize. Inbound, makes no
What?
mistake. Dardas misses his apple. Nif is having a conniption over here as Dardas still gets pulled back in, but so does Inbound as Nika underneath the Tier 1 tower has his ult. And if that's me, my tiny brain is saying, go Dave, go. We're ulting inbound under the tower, but Nika thinks twice. And everyone on the map will live. At what point, though, Myth, do you say, all right, we've piled on Sod enough. It's time to put this level lead elsewhere on the map and maybe get some rotations going.
Why stop?
Blink in from Neoma. Cataclysm, this one hits. Dardes had held on to his ultimate. That might have been enough if it went in. And so Baronic will take the Cataclysm, holds his beads, did not have ult. So no kill to be had here in the mid lane. Apple again, but Dardes goes wide. This one will cost him his life. Oh no, that is brutal.
Well, okay. It's been a long set here today. Cubo, Fred, and Neoma
I appreciate you
still
taking
sticking
that from me.
around, seeing if maybe they could turn this engagement inbound low, as is Baronic. But it is an engagement from the Solar Scarabs. Do they go to kneel here? Nice
They
pull.
might.
Whoa!
Cubo Fred right to the doorstep.
You're done.
Big burst damage, and Scream will connect with the ult on the Cubo Fred. And the shards of the fire. What is it?
Shards of fire?
Do I call this shards of ice?
Yeah, that's Ymir. Massive. And once SOT does get there, even if he descends into madness at level 10, up against what Oni Warriors have elsewhere on the map, he's just getting accosted. Right. SOT is one level up on Neoma.
That doesn't feel great.
No, it feels bad.
That's the enemy support.
That's right.
You want to be a little bit further ahead than that. Neoma, the man even in levels or one level down from SOT, gets pulled back into a double Cataclysm. Apple!
There it is.
Yeah, baby, this one's good from Dardes up into the sky. Goes Baronic, Fire Shards cleans out the damage, but Scream has been left alone and Boat capitalizes. And an ultimate down from Cubo Fred slows down inbound. And it looks like the one pick is all the Oni Warriors want.
For Cthulhu, and we're getting close. If SOT catches up to Nika, that's significant.
It is. That has been the leverage for the Oni Warriors through the first 18 minutes of this game. Another Pyro goes down. And so another neutral objective. There's another way of wording that goes to the Oni Warriors. Hasn't been much pushback from the Solar Scarabs. Hard to imagine doing so when you're fighting on right. Dark Portal hits its mark. Stewart dashes away, puts into the Heartbeat Pit. Bifrost gets him out. And that's a big play from Stewart. Uses both of his actives and his ultimate, but stays on the map. Neoma
Not had to deal with Cthulhu until exactly now, the 19-minute mark.
They're even on levels. As we go into this fight, the levels are even. You know, I imagine Nika's pretty close to being level 18, but that's not what's on the scoreboard right now. And so SOT, despite his lane being difficult, has caught back up in this game. Missed for Nika, and Cubo Fred gets read out pretty quickly. Nika uses his ultimate defensively. Good fire shards, chips some damage down from Baronic. Disengaged from the Oni Warriors for the time being as SOT and inbound waltz forward into the ranks of the Oni Warriors. And this Oni Fury is going to get pulled. Nika doesn't have his ult, but Baronic doesn't have his. This Nuwa has to rotate these relics effectively if there's an impending dive from the Oni Warriors that hits its mark.
Inbound trying to find a pull, but it's
it.
SOT in first. Descend into madness.
That's a good strike from Dardes to slow down the re-engage. SOT's got eyes for the mid lane. Neoma, he'll live. Piercing Moonlight. Where does it go? Nowhere, because Scream is dead. Nika on the other side of this fight is going to separate it right on out, and the Solar Scarabs running to the hills. This Mulan is a problem. Beads used by Baronic, and that'll keep him out of the stun for just a little bit longer. A 2 for none despite SOT running down the back line. And the Oni Warriors come up big. And Myth, can you smell it? Can you smell?
I can.
Can you smell game 5? The pumpkin spiced, I don't know, what are we cooking in the oven? Muffins. That's real high-res hours?
No, we're not there yet.
You're
behaving like it is.
I'm saying this is real big cup of coffee that's driving me through, and I'm going to have a whole nother one if we end up going on to game 5.
Don't do that.
Massive from Cubo Fred. Dash on, it looks like reflect damage on the Caltrops.
For the Oni Warriors, now netting them 5,000 gold in the lead. Pyromancer spawning very shortly, and a great way to push that lead even further. But the longer the game goes, the less it means. Maybe leverage it while you got it. Fire Giant getting pulled out.
Neoma hovering around the FG. Inbound is as well, and it's Nika. The last person you want walking at you is walking at inbound. Scream uses Piercing Moonlight defensively. That is massive. So much less dive now to get to the Oni Warriors backline. SOT descends into madness on his own side of this team fight. And this is smart from the Oni Warriors. Let's just disengage. You've thrown out 2 of your big ultimates, 3 if you count Fire Shards. And they've got nothing in return.
SOT does hover around here, but without the ultimate, not very valuable is this
Ooh, nice
Cthulhu, and yeah, Stripe does a lot of damage.
I think Darnus
Clearly.
is starting to hit his stride here, Myth. Missed a few abilities earlier in the game. And the
Not
apple
this
will
time.
connect once again. Unfortunately, SOT just too far away to move back in. Fire Giant is at half HP inbound. Avoids the big damage. The stun from
low.
Nika. Walks around the corner. The body blocks are there, but is it enough? Inbound
Surely
walks
not.
into range, and the Oni Warriors take down the first Fire Giant of the game. Grab a kill on the inbound as well. And all 5 of the Oni Warriors have Fire Giant. And the mid lane is where their eyes will go. Maybe on the left. Plenty of towers left to take.
7,000 gold, Fire Giant on 5, and 5 towers still remaining for the Oni Warriors to strip away. 30 seconds left on the Sylvanas respawn. I think the Oni Warriors might be able to go for a Phoenix Siege here.
A similar story for the Oni Warriors, where the Oni Warriors are taking the game into their own hands. They are no longer experiencing Smite. They are playing Smite, and they are doing it effectively. And a real good look at a game 5. That is an interrupted back by Nika. The man has done everything this game, including stunning and killing Scream in his own jungle, canceling the back. And now it's a freer push on the left side of the map. Is that the call by the Oni Warriors? You're going to keep Nika over here.
Oh
And
no.
Myth, 3 more collapsing into mid.
It's 3 in mid, and Cubo Fred's close gap already inbound, burning quick. Heavenly Sprint buys him some time, but the Golden Apple will chunk.
And it will not counter out the CC, but it will send inbound running towards base. SOT doing the same. Nika, the man mountain himself, walking back to the mid lane. What does this Mulan want to do? Wants to siege this Phoenix. That's the answer. Stun and no good. And the Oni Warriors will walk towards the front line of the Solar Scarabs and walk out with the Phoenix.
Can you tell that the Oni Warriors took an engagement? If you weren't looking at their ultimate cooldowns and their relics, 11,000 gold in the lead, it's gonna look good.
This is a glimpse behind the curtain. Myth only takes bets he knows he's going to win.
That just can't be true with my history. It just cannot. Oni Warriors starting up the Fire Giant. Slight grouping from the Solar Scarabs on the right-hand side, but no world where they could step up to the pit itself. So the Warriors, yet again, net Fire Giant for 5 members. Only 2 Phoenixes standing between them and the exposed Titan of the Solar Scarabs. Defense potential for the Scarabs is there. Descent into Madness still a phenomenal tool. Inbound can engage these fights well as well. But it's all about the back line. Baronic and Stewart have not been dealing that much impactful damage. Baronic, top of the charts, but that's Nuwa. That's just fire shards, and generally after they've already lost a team fight. And Stewart sitting 3rd lowest right now, only above the supports in this game.
See how long this mid lane Phoenix lasts.
Longer
Maybe a
than I
little bit
thought.
longer. Long enough.
Oh, it's still there.
Still there. Nika gets 2 members of the Solar Scarabs in his direction. But I imagine Nika's going to stick around here. You almost have to send 2 to deal with Nika here. Because it feels like anyone alone with Nika is going to be suffering not a great fate. Cubo Fred hovering in mid as well. And so you got both carries plus support on right. Solo and jungle hovering over on the mid. Cubo Fred blinks in, finds Scream with his ultimate. Nika dashes to the side, piercing Moonlight out. Mid lane Phoenix goes down. But Cubo Fred lives on. Nika is on a rampage, and that has been the story of this game. There will be a kill traded out, a rare one for the Solar Scarabs here. But SOT, he's all alone outside of his own base. The apple is on him, and Vote is the one who puts him down finally. Neilma has been left alone. That being said, so a 2-for-2 trade, but you've lost your mid lane Phoenix, you've lost your solo and your jungle, and Myth Nika is still on the map. And that is the biggest boon the Warriors have.
No ultimates left for the Scarabs, and inbound takes a fair deal of damage. Nika can't say the same of him, just walks into the Phoenix and walks out immediately through the fire and not burned. The Oni Warriors, they're in the burn.
Nika is taking nearly no damage. That's a big strike from Dardes. Game 5 on the other end of this engagement. If it goes the Oni Warriors' way, the Phoenix will crumble.
Kills on the side of the Solar Scarabs, so maybe you're not getting a whole lot of value from that passive, maybe more interested in the actual stats itself. Doesn't want to split up his protections amongst his allies, I suppose. Solar Scarabs, though.
I need them all.
Yeah, they're grouped up. Here we go.
I need all the props I can get. Inbound, pulled in, stunned. Oh, that is huge from Neilma. 3-man Cataclysm on the right side of this fight. But you're looking at the left, and you're looking at Nika running down the Solar Scarabs. The Scarabs show up around the Oni Fury, and that is their folly. They've already lost 2. SOT will make 3 because guess who's here? It's Nika, the 6-0 man around the backside. Make him unstoppable. Piercing Moonlight sends Scream right back in, Stripe at his feet. and he will back away from this engagement, but the Oni Warriors, Myth, they need no more. Nika might chase down the 8th kill of the game, but guess where we're headed? We're on to a game 5.
8-0-4 for Nika and the Oni Warriors walking lackadaisically into the Titan room. What can you do, Inbound?
Nothing. He immediately dies. T aside for the Warriors. Game 5 for us. And another cup of coffee for me, for Myth to deal
You
with.
do not need it. You are shaking.
Blue for a long period of time in this game by design. This play was definitely not a great start for the Scarabs. Just not paying attention to what you're walking into there from Veronic. The backline for the Scarabs just didn't have a great game in this one. I thought Inbound played really well in the early stages of this game, but just got to the point where they couldn't handle this Mulan whatsoever. The mobility that she has and the dive potential just ended up being a little bit too much. Fred was on point alongside him with the dive. Neil played Geb and did a lot of damage and a lot of protections all at the same time. God's good. And Dardes gets this Discordia again. I think you just have to take it away from him. I've seen enough. I think that he's just so much better on this Discordia than everything else right now. I see no reason to give it to him.
This was a perplexing pick when it was locked in for the Mulan. And yet I can think of no complaints I really had about that game. There were a couple of misses there from Nika. That's maybe the only notes we have. Really good Cataclysms. You had just highlighted how much this Geb was able to do.
Scream.
And yeah, what Neil was able to accomplish in a lot of these moments, not just that one, I would argue several of those moments where this Cataclysm was essential, even times where it didn't get a lot of damage, he forced ults out of Solar Troll, things like that made the Scarabs not necessarily withstand as much as they could have otherwise.
Exactly, and Stewart just wasn't able to do any significant damage in this game, only 8,000 for him. Dardes puts out 17k. Obviously, Baronic's going to have a lot of damage on the Nuwa, but not enough of it being super effective.
A much-needed win. Again, this is a very important set for these teams in terms of group implications. You have to look at the other teams they're going to be matched up against. The Titans and the Bolts are the other two teams in this group. Not an easy set to be able to take over either of those teams. And so if you think about them potentially going 0-2 versus them, this is the game that would separate you between 3rd and 4th.
Yep.
Of course, there's always chance for other upsets. We already see the Bolts at 0-1, so a lot of implications at that. We'll see what happens here. The Scarabs ban out the Morrigan. Now the Izanami joins that. It is Hades Olarun once again there for the Warriors, keeping things pretty much on track.
So it's I suppose this means they aren't banning Geb. Yeah, you banned Discordia here. Okay, so this is the Scarab saying, we would have abused this Geb early if it weren't for Izanami. Izanami is removing our counterplay option to the Geb. So instead of banning Geb, they ban Izanami, and I'm assuming are hoping that the Warriors are going to take the Geb anyways, and that they can punish it then. Maybe they're thinking about taking it themselves. Last game, they snap-locked the Sylvanas in this situation. They didn't even think about it. This game, the Warriors are still waiting on their 3rd ban, I suppose, on what they are going to go for. But I think that the way that the Warriors have to play around this Geb now with Izanami banned, I think it's still worth picking if the Scarabs don't take it for themselves.
It was the Odin ban to finalize the top 3 for the Warriors. Very similar. Actually, exact same is what they had banned. It's going to be the RDO left open and locked in for the Scarabs. Maybe anticipating that the Warriors won't lock in something like the Sylvanas, which has been very kind to Bobby.
Well, you just still get Geb or Sylvanas this way, or Terra. All 3 of those are open. Yamoja also open. So
there's a lot of good Guardians still.
A lot of good Guardians on the table. So they take a Guardian, but it's the solo lane Guardian of that group. They decide to go with that option, trying to get Solar Troll something a little bit more present in the lane than the Cthulhu. And the Warriors continue to prioritize Terra over the Geb, really valuing that teamfight presence that Terra brings, and they sustain more so than the shielding and the damage from the Cataclysm.
Now, do you think this time, because you had mentioned with the Izanami ban, it feels like the Scarabs have a mentality of Geb was a problem, but because of the early lane phase that we weren't able to shut him down, do you think that's more or less the mentality here, which is, you know what, we don't know that Geb without Izanami is going to be enough for us?
Yeah, well, it was in Game 4, I believe, or Game 3, that Geb was neither picked nor banned.
Yeah.
And the Warriors took Terra over Geb. So I think that they just value Terra over Geb. I think they just think for whatever they're doing, what their team comp has got going on, they prioritize the Terra first. So, you know, that's up to them and how they're going to play it. That is an awfully early Kali pick for Scream, but it did get banned last game, so they will take it and make sure that he has at least the option to go to it later.
Artio Kali feels like it should be a very devastating late game combo. Making it there is a different conversation. Sylvanas locked in alongside those, so you've got a jungle and your front line locked in here. Unless they're doing something really weird and throwing this Kali elsewhere, but Scream performed really well with it on game 2.
Love it.
Now
love
the Serket
it.
comes through. How do you, like, I mean, you love it, good anti-heal.
Love it.
A lot.
This is one of the only ways to shut down Kali, is that she goes into destruction, we can't kill her. This is super annoying. She can kill her target full heal. All you've got to do, if you're Fred, your whole job this game is as soon as you hear that Kali ult, you go ult that guy. All you got to do. Because she will die. It's unless she buys Aegis, she dies. There's nothing else she can do. So, and he's not buying Aegis the vast majority of the time. That is Fred's job in these mid to late game team fights, is to not let this Kali get any sort of survivability from the ultimate. It shuts it down entirely. Love that pick for Fred. Obviously good in the early game against the Sylvanas. Struggles a bit against the RDO because of the cripple field, but still think it's a very smart pick for him.
Bans start coming through here after that Serket pick for the Warriors. Uller and Cupid. The Cupid's the one that might seem surprising, but Fields of Love would really help shut down that Serket. So that is a good ban from the Warriors.
Yep.
The Mulan makes an appearance on the Scarabs ban side. They don't want to have to deal with that again alongside this Nike. So a lot of solo lane, a lot of Hunters taken off the board. Heimdall's been a popular pick over there for the Scarabs and is still available for them. Vote has opted into this Hachiman. We're still waiting for the mid laner. With no Discordia, where does Dardes go?
It's a good question. No Discordia, no Morrigan. I mean, he can go Hera. That's what we always know him for. That's certainly an option for him. I like this decision to let him see the whole draft, see what everyone is playing, and then try and make a decision from there. But Cthulhu, I think that this Kali was kind of there as, hey, don't pick Cthulhu because we'll kill you for it. You've got Double Guardian still here for the Solar Scarabs. Cthulhu has not looked good this set, no matter which team is really piloting him. A little surprised that's the direction they go. And I was going to say, I'll bet you the Scarabs now, you just lock Double Hunter from this position, right? Because this is how you beat them early in Game 2, was you just had 3 chin-size characters on your team. And the Cthulhu's like, sweet, I just get percent HP to death every single fight. I think I go Double Hunter in this situation. You've got enough magic damage between the RDO and the Sylvanas. It's not great. I'm still going Sov into Lotus Crown if I'm Neil, but it's enough magic damage to contribute. I love this Charybdis pick if it's for Baronic. Give Stewart another Hunter, and I think that they're in a pretty good position.
Well, they're waiting for that last lock-in.
Probably
Everything
Heim.
else feels pretty solid overall. It is, once again, though, mid laners, when you're looking at it, specifically in this matchup versus a Charybdis, if it does go mid, has been Baronic's pick so far. What matches up well into that if you're Dardes here?
There's not a lot. I mean, normally when you get Hunters in the mid lane, you get out-pressured early because their auto attacks hit really hard.
Yeah.
That actually isn't really the case with Charybdis. Her auto attacks early aren't great, and so you can actually get lane pressure from her. I think that you go something a little bit more team fight presency because you need something to command attention away from Nika. Terra's not going to do it. I don't think Hachiman is really the character to do it. Serket certainly won't do it when it comes to team fight presence. I think you need something that can do it. Morgan Le Fay is interesting because this is a pick that doesn't really automatically get mid lane pressure, but I think probably can do okay up against the Charybdis. You got a lot of abilities that make her have to use Whirlpool form.
So
We have a cough button.
I know, but everyone's got to encapsulate all of this with a Solar Scarabs and the Oni Warriors. We go all 5 games here. Scarabs win 1 and 2. The Oni Warriors take it in games 3 and 4. And Myth, it is a return to normalcy. Clearly not for us here at the studio, but in the draft for the Solar Scarabs feels more similar to what we had in games 1 and 2 in games that the Scarabs felt very in control of.
Yeah, if you could remember to 5 hours ago when this set started, this is exactly the style of draft that the Solar Scarabs were looking for. And I think Aggro brings a great point on the desk roughly 20 minutes ago, where it's a triple kin-size composition for Kali, Baronic, and Stewart as well. Being able to utilize that. So Nika might find himself in a similar position in the late game as he did earlier on. This Cthulhu is going to struggle mightily, especially when you take into consideration what Kali is able to do against that god. This time, though, a significant change for the Oni Warriors is their jungler Cuvo Fred playing that Circuit, one of the hardest counters to Kali in the game.
Results hold with the seedings. If the teams that are seeded higher beat the teams that are seeded lower, these two teams technically would be fighting for that third and final spot out of Group B, but there is plenty of Smite yet to be played. Needless to say, a lot of weight stands on this matchup nonetheless. Big pull onto Vote. Double stun from Neoma on the answer, and Stewart and Inbound suddenly get it turned around. Watch out, Cuvo Fred is here, and in he blinks. Inbound walks away. Shell is there, but Vote has not taken nearly enough damage. It's a dash through from Neoma. Stewart on the back end takes a Bifrost out. Somebody has got to die here. Are you kidding me? Inbound
He's still alive
by Cuvo Fred. Auto
one more auto
on the other end, and Inbound will live with 30 HP.
Man, Stewart left Inbound to die there, by the way. Inbound steps back forward to try and give his boy the whiffs, and Stewart rides the Bifrost out of dodge. But somehow, someway, juking inside of the wave, the tree remains standing, and then quietly on the other side of the map, it's a blue buff invade that goes right for the Solar Scarabs.
Your brain was wiped. Game 4, Nika controlled that game. This is a great pull from Inbound. That from Neil Miff really makes this interesting, that double stun. And I can't believe it. I cannot believe Inbound will live. We'll see how low his health gets in this engagement. As low as 32. And maybe a little more damage on the end of it here. But 32 is as low as it gets. And that is unbelievable. Just needed a little bit more.
Did you see that support mentality? He turns on a dime to help out his teammate.
Lower. It was lower than 32.
No, calculated. That's all easy for Inbound. That's why he locked in the Sylvanas, was that sustain in the lane. And now
in 400 gold less is all the difference here in Game 5 from what happened in Game 2. There's a lot of Smite to be played, simply pointing out similarities between this. In Game 2, the engage from Baronic around to the corner. Darnez avoids the stun, but there is destruction from Scream, and there's a first blood as well, and the Solar Scarabs will match the gold lead from Game 2 off to a great start in Game 5. Red's going to get dropped down just fine by the Oni Warriors. But I remember, I'm thinking back to the Kali game Scream played earlier, and I think, if I'm remembering correctly, he delayed the completion of his Odibo. Vote, well-timed on his beats there. Inbound, pull, no. Would have been a death sentence, you'd imagine, for Vote, though. Does have the mounted archery, and so that could have saved his life there as well. But Tier 2 Odibo, I think maybe transitioned into a Wind Demon, something like that earlier on. We'll see if Scream just goes ahead and completes the Odibo this time. But the Kali, a topic of conversation here, Miff, one that could get off to a great start. Dardes misses the range damage, does not miss the knockup. Into the ultimate he goes, avoids the stun. But my God, that is damage from Baronic, and Dardes learns the hard way. 0-2 for the Morgan Le Fay. And this is a brutal start for the Oni Warriors to a Game 5. You pick up some momentum. And now Game 5 going like this. SOT sent on the other side.
Great
Cuvo
CC
Fred
chain!
Knocked up. Inbound. Pulls him back through, but Cuvo Fred dashes and leaps on away. And he'll survive this time.
I think Inbound may have choked that kill. The ultimate, perfect. Keeps the cripple field online so that SOT is able to reclose the gap on a Cuvo Fred and stop the dash and leap. But the pull puts Cuvo Fred in a position where he can dash and leap.
It's another pull from Inbound, but this time it's Neoma dropping the ult in the mid lane. Nika is here as well. There's a lot of damage onto Baronic and Inbound. One knockup is there, but Baronic has used the beads. And so Nika, with the Descent into Madness, strips away the beads from Baronic. And Inbound, luckily.
It's a Ikavale start for Vote, so he's got some 1v1 potential up against Stewart, stripping away some of that power. The attack speed, good as well. Charged bow pickup for Scream means that he's now dealing AoE damage in these engagements, and quickly as well.
A lot of damage onto Cuvo. Not even time to cast that one, as SOT and Scream combined for a kill. And this is a horrible start for the Oni Warriors, and Cuvo Fred just not having the ability to play aggressively, impact the map. And that's Gold Fury is up, but the Solar Scarabs nor the Oni Warriors will group up around this one. I don't know, man. Look, we're only 10 minutes, 11 minutes into this game. And already it's a worrying trend if you're the Warriors or one of their fans. This would be good, a kill onto Inbound, but look at the sustain.
He's living.
On the other end, he lives, and Baronic in turn turns damage around onto Dardes. Didn't even have to use his ultimate. Cuvo Fred is going to get caught out here by SOT.
No.
And Scream, this happened just a moment ago. You're relying on Nika's peel, but there's just not enough. Scream will charged bow his way, into Cubo Fred's health bar. Inbound still in this fight, still low, still impacting things. And it looks like he's going to walk away as well. Miff, this is big shades of game number 2. At least something brought back here. And it's the first kill of the game for the Oni Warriors.
Inbound does trade out his life, but maybe Neoma going to do the exact same thing. Cripplefield's
so
there. Stun connects!
Oh, that's big from Baronic to stun onto Nika. The Cthulhu dashes away. No descent into madness, and the Solar Scarabs are hungry for more. Unfortunately, the health and mana bars don't agree with Scream and don't agree with SOT. If you told me the solo lane tower was going to be the first one to go down with mid being this way for the last 5 minutes, I would have laughed. And here's what's worrying, Miff, is that there hasn't been any pushback around these neutral objectives. Pyro looked at, Gold Fury looked at, and just let go by the wayside. And it's terrifying. Tier 1 tower in both mid and right
7 now.
Looked at. Tier 1 tower on left looked at.
It's at 8,000.
The Oni Warriors have, whether by the game state or by their own decision making, not had an opportunity to find any footing here in this game. I think he might be dead here, Miff. Nika, descent into madness. Scream is low on the back end. Destruction is there for the Kali. Cubo Fred has found him, but Cubo Fred is left alone. My friend, what are you doing inbound from range? We'll finish off that kill. Stewart has got one on the vote on left. It's a 2-for-1 kill over on the left side of the map. Inbound is able to chase one down here on right, and Nika might die as well. My hopes are fading for the Oni Warriors and their ability to turn this around, and my hopes are soaring for the Solar Scarabs and their ability to close us out here in Game 5.
So we're approaching 9,000 gold now for the Solar Scarabs, 8-1 in the slash line. SOT made an early rotation over towards the duo lane, which is why we saw Nika pushed up to the Tier 1 tower, even Tier 2. And great body blocks. He buys so much time. Scream's going to take that kill. SOT does not need abilities to lock down his opponents because he's just that chunky in the bear form, I suppose. Is this a Tier 2 tower at the 15-minute mark? What is happening?
This is disgusting. What happened in games 3 and 4? What goes on?
What? You guys could have done this the whole time?
This is unbelievable. It's unbelievable because this is the same thing, Miff. This is the same thing we
Deja
saw
vu?
in games 1 and 2. What happened? What happened in games 3 and 4? This is a best of 5 set, I suppose, and you're taking it to its limits if you're the Solar Scarabs. 10,000 gold.
13,000 experience, by the way. 15 minutes in, that might as well be another 10,000 gold. Let's call it a 20,000 lead.
Is 503.
It's almost grow.
It's like humorous at some point, right? It's not humorous if you're the Warriors or their fans.
No, they hate this.
They hate
They're
every
molding.
aspect of this. But it's almost humorous. Just there is zero deviation from the norm here as far as the gold lead. We have not broken it. And it's from minute 1 when there were no kills on the map for the Solar Scarabs.
They're pulling it.
From minute 1. From 0-0 in the kill department, the Scarabs have had a 1,000 gold lead since minute 4, and we have not looked back. Yeah, we got 3 Wind Demons, 2 Chin Size. We're 17 minutes in. Why not go for it? Can Nika make something happen?
Oh my God.
He is left alone. And look at the Cthulhu health bar, or what was the Cthulhu health bar. Stewart does plenty of damage in this one. Darda's on the wrong side of this fight. He will trade out a kill, but Stewart will get the double. Cubo Fred left running. Beads used, leap used. SOT is going to run down Neoma. When it rains at Monsoon.
They didn't reverse sweep.
They
did
lost
not.
like the next game. So the Oni Warriors break the initial reverse sweep coming up curse and take us to 5. But it looks like we might be ending this game sub 20 minutes. Why not? The Solar Scarabs have come to play.
Surely
SOT
not.
is zoning out 3 members of the Oni Warriors. There's an exposed Phoenix in mid and right that we can take. We have not quite reached the 20-minute mark. This Scarabs team is playing like a team possessed in 3 games with a 2-game lull sandwich somewhere in the middle. But the turnaround we've seen from games 3 and 4, you could totally understand if the momentum, the moment, kind of took the Scarabs out of this set. But they re-grounded themselves, drafted a great composition. And Miff, it looks like they're one team fight away from taking Game 5 and taking their first game in the group.
It's a mid-Phoenix approaching, and the minion wave is in. Neoma takes a good deal of damage, but it's Cubo Fred in the back.
We need a miracle, and we need it now if you're the Oni Warriors. Mid-Phoenix low.
This could be
Cubo
it.
Fred onto screen.
It's Fred.
And Dardas is the one who is able to pick up the kill. The mid-Phoenix does go down, but the fight is not lopsided. The Scarabs do not win the death column game. They do win the Phoenix game, though, so Scream goes down, and that was a concerted effort by the Oni Warriors to grab that kill. Fire Minion waves in left and mid. That's going to force Vote left, force Kivo Fred mid. Let's walk forward. Let's get a pull. Let's end the fight. Let's end this set.
Neoma ticks over to level 12, so has his secondary relic now available. If you want a point of reference for how that looks for supports in this lobby, Inbound sitting at level 18. That's 6 levels separating these two guys.
Inbound is ahead of everyone on the Oni Warriors, and even with 2.
He's fed at 1-1 and 4.
That is bad for the Oni Warriors.
It's 20,000 gold.
It is 20,000 gold at 22 minutes. You don't often see a 1K gold per minute increase, but we are real close to it for the Solar Scarabs here. And right side Phoenix looks like the last bastion of hope for the Oni Warriors, and this bird will go down quickly. It's triple chin size, triple wind demon. Don't let Scream, Veronica, or Stewart, I guess, hit the Phoenix at all, because it's going to fall quickly. Mid-wave Fire Minions reach the Titan. Is there some pushback at any point here from the Oni Warriors? SOT is walking into the backline, and he is doing it with ease.
Dead.
Nika cannot even use the Descent into Madness. The Solar Scarabs set the stage. They set the feast, and they have eaten in Game 5. The Oni Warriors brought us here, but the Solar Scarabs wag their fingers. Game 5 and the set to the Solar Scarabs.
And this was one of the most important matchups in Group B. Solar Scarabs and the Oni Warriors the closest in skill level, meaning that whoever won this one likely does stamp their ticket to move on to the next phase. That's tough stuff. Now the Oni Warriors have to
dominant from the very beginning of this game. Just never really found an answer for the Oni Warriors. I mean, it started off with Scream having an easy first blood against this Morgan Le Fay for Dardez, and that was really just the beginning of the end, it felt like, for the Oni Warriors. They just didn't have any fight. Their duo lane was getting ran over. Their mid lane was getting ran over. Nika wasn't able to really join in these fights. It was just too easy for this squad, and Baronic keeps making this Charybdis mid look really, really good.
Yeah, if you weren't sold on it, this set probably could have sold you on it the way that things were going. They won all of the games they had the Charybdis as well, so a good look for the Scarabs each time they locked it in. And yeah, you're not misreading this. This is 11 minutes in, 5,000 gold. I wanted to talk a little bit about that. It was the point where, like, you have to start questioning things. Like, they had so much gold flowing into their pockets, but that's not the only thing they were dominating with. I marked these down because they were so early. 18 minutes and 30 seconds, and then 18 minutes 40 seconds. That was the level 20 for Stewart and then for Scream, respectively. They hit it much faster than the level a minute mark, and that indicates, I think, more than anything, how ahead they were.
They were just, this game snowballed out of control so quickly. Warriors didn't have any mid-camp control. They didn't have any control of anything. I mean, you won't see 669 gold per minute very often, but Stewart nearly hit 700 gold per minute. Like, that is absurd.
Yeah, and just by metrics, anything over 600 is nuts. Like, a good winning game is 590, range, right?
Yeah.
That 591 for Baronic, that's your good, hey, we had a 20, and because they cannot tie with the Scarabs in those standings if they want to be able to make it there. Ideally, they find 2, and it's somebody else's problem, but we'll have to see that. The Warriors won't be playing until next week. Scarabs have to go up against the Bolts tomorrow, just around that 1:30, 2 p.m. mark, if you want to catch that one. And then before that, Leviathans taking on the Dragons. Now, if that wasn't enough for you, 2 really heavy-hitting matches, let me sell you a little bit more. Both best of 5s, easy selling point right there. How about both in studio on top of that? Yeah, all 4 of these teams are going to be coming in and playing with us here for Halloween. It is going to be a fantastic day. Of course, there's also the pumpkin contest that's going on. It's going to be a fun day tomorrow. I have on good authority that there's going to be some costumes being worn.
Yes.
That authority is that I know I am wearing one. And I assume some of the others are based on conversations, but I can't guarantee anything like that. Here's the standings for the groups so far. Of course, we've had 2 sets from each, so some teams are up 1-0, and that is a great spot to be sitting right now. Top 3 is where you need to be.
I really hope Mifflin comes dressed as a competent analyst. Wouldn't that be a good change of pace?
Jeez. I wasn't expecting that. I
don't know.
I think I caught some flair. I might need some burn.
It was that. Why did I go at Mifflin? I should have gone at you, Gore, for absolutely roasting me earlier. In a defenseless position.
I felt really bad about it. If it makes you feel better.
Well,
but
I'm sorry,
it was funny.
Mifflin. I was angry at Gore. I laughed.